Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Mountaineer Postgame Show. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That's Christopher Hall from the WVU Coliseum. Tonight, the West Virginia Mountaineers fall to the BYU Cougars 73-69, a game that was very much needed for both teams, entering the night with identical records on the season and in Big 12 play. WVU now 6-7 on the year in Big 12 play. We'll talk about that and kind of the future schedule that the Mountaineers have coming up here in just a minute. But of course, look here at the numbers. No Javon Small. I think this is the first time we haven't had Javon Small in this, maybe all season long. Just couldn't get a shot going tonight. He only got 4 shots up on the rim. He went 2 of 4, still nearly finished with a double-double. But it was Jonathan Powell, 11 points, 3 of 6 from three-point range. Toby Okani, oddly enough, one of the defensive menaces that West Virginia has, led the Mountaineers in scoring with 16 points, actually tied Igor Demon for the scoring high on the night, who had 16 for the Cougars. Both teams threw up a bunch of threes, made a bunch, 19 combined made threes between the two teams. And as it was the story in the Utah win, the rebounding, it was the story again here tonight. But in terms of West Virginia's side of it, it was actually the wrong side of how they should have came out in this one. Minus 10 on the glass. They gave up several second chance opportunities. A totally different performance from what they did a couple of nights ago against Utah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just had to do with the fact that BYU hit some big shots, especially when the shot clock was tired. Some threes that really had no business going in the way they weren't even square on some of those shots. It's kind of one of those kind of nights.
Yeah.
Defensively, second half, they allowed them to get downhill a lot of drives to the basket. And that kind of happens sometimes when you play overly aggressive on defense. So one really a bad performance, I'd say, from West Virginia, really all around. They didn't give up a lot of second chance points. They didn't give up a lot of second chance offensive rebounds. But when it came down to clutch time yet again, that's really when it really gets amplified there in the final minutes when they get those offensive rebounds. And, Yesufu had a great look there at the end in the corner, just didn't knock it down. We'll say
Yep.
it for the upteenth millionth time. Just got to make some shots. When a team's hitting like that, they're tough to beat. And at the end, you're going to have to make some shots. You can't go scoreless in the final 2 minutes the way they did. And then again, defensively, they just wasn't causing enough turnovers like they did in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, this was a gut punch, I think, just because you led for almost the majority of the game. You were up by 5 or 6, really 2 scores for much of the game as well. And you find a way to lose. And that's just it's a tough result because of who you're playing. I mean, it would have been the same if it was Houston or if it was Arizona, but the fact that this was another team that's in the pretty much the same position that you're in, it's just a little extra added jab to the stomach for the Mountaineers here.
Yeah. It seems like one of those years where West Virginia can't catch a break all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Maybe they had all their bounces early in the season on some of those upsets, but right now, it's just very, very little room for error. And again, going up against a team that just made some really clutch shots. When they're making shots, you play good D, and they're making shots. That's where your offense has to shine. And offense didn't play bad, but in clutch time, just couldn't knock them down. So, um, I thought BYU did a great job defensively against Javon Small. Was physical with him off the ball, face guarded him the whole time. Didn't allow him to get loose in any way, shape, or form. It's only the second time this year he's been held at double figures, and that was that a week ago against Houston. They didn't hit double figures, so it's not really Javon Small thing. It is teams are playing really good defense. Other guys stepped up, but again, it's final 5 minutes of play, and big shout out to Oconee because they took the lead on 2 of his offensive rebounds back to back. So
Yeah.
they're doing the little things. This is the Big 12. This is a good BYU team. Record may not indicate that they're a great team. I don't think they are, but this is a really, really good offensive team. Lead the league in field goal percentage, and the mark for West Virginia's whole team's under 44%. They just went above it 45, and you see how the difference in the scoreboard, how little bit of it is. That makes them 1-7 on the year when teams shoot over 44%. The only The only win they had during that was Arizona in the Bahamas. So, yeah, it really falls on the defense. Can't let them shoot 55% on your home floor. I believe that BYU, no, they shot better. I think they were shooting just under 44% on the road this year. So, again, I just think a lot of it really had to do with some of the shots they made. And that's a very much credit to BYU coming into a building like this. Crowd wasn't full. Uh, Bad weather here again in Morgantown. Snow was pouring. Before the game time, it deterred a lot of fans from coming, but BYU just unfazed by it. And a lot of credit to, I'm probably butchering his name, but Demean Igor, kid's a freshman, 6'9" point guard. Kid's really, really good. And he made some big plays.
Yeah, potential first round pick, lottery pick, really. I mean, you can see why a lot of scouts really
He's on the
like
draft
him.
board. Yeah, he's on the draft board.
He's he's
It's
really
another night
long.
where West Virginia's going up against NBA talent, and
Yeah.
you know, small, great player. Probably taking some hits this last week or so in Big 12 Player of the Year, but he's not NBA caliber. You know, the guy that's possibly NBA caliber is out for the season. So you only got one guy that's really been consistent throughout the season. And again, these guys making shots. Powell had some big shots, and West Virginia responded really a lot throughout the game. Every time you mentioned, every time they went up six, BYU came back. West Virginia would respond, almost every single time. But again, in the final 5 minutes, going to have some numbers here in the next couple of days for this final 5 minutes in the Big 12 play because that's really
That'd be an
been
interesting stat to know.
it's really been interesting those final minutes for West Virginia.
It's
So
been a circus at times.
yeah, and it's really you mentioned Oconee. I mean, he came up big in those final 5 minutes with those two offensive rebounds. And Yesufu had a good look, just didn't knock it down. So it's not that they're running bad offense. And again, credit BYU for playing good defense today. It's just sometimes you're not knocking them down, and the other team is. So they've got to find a ways to create more separation when you go up six there midway, past the midway point in the second half. They just kind of got to ride that momentum, build a bigger gap, kind of put you know, your foot on their throat, as they say, and then just kind of pull away a little bit. Don't have them let them have any more confidence, and they've had opportunities to kind of extend it, maybe extend it into double digits sometimes if they could have just grabbed some momentum. It's not going to get any easier. Yes, some of these teams, Cincinnati picked up a big win tonight, so well, they feeling it all of a sudden. So kind of look on the
Yeah.
schedule like, yeah, look, it's just going to come down to the final 5 minutes. If you don't create that separation to midway point, it's going to come down to the final 5 minutes. And when they're just guarding Javon the way they did tonight, other guys are going to have to make shots there in the clutch time. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
everyone saw the Iowa State game. And
Yeah.
it's been clear since then. All the focus is on Javon. So they're going to make other guys beat you at this point, and those guys are going to just have to knock down some shots, and they will. Yes, Fizz made some big plays and clutch moments. It just so has Powell. Maybe not as late, but they will eventually. They've been in enough situations that they'll start. It's not going to be so much pressure on them to do it.
Yeah, I mean, as tough as it was to that Joe didn't hit that shot there to take the lead. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm shocked that they were even able to hang with BYU in the way that that game was starting, the way that the points were going left and right, the threes were going left and right. I mean, 9 of 27. I mean, that's a hell of a night from 3 point range. You only made one less three, and you had one less thing. So you basically shot, I think, the same percentage. But it's just those offensive shots, those offensive looks at the end of the game that really hurt you. But credit to Kevin Young. I think he's going to be a really good coach. Obviously, they landed the top player in next year's class for BYU. They run some really good stuff offensively, and you can kind of see the NBA style in the way that they play offensively. It's a bunch of threes, it's a bunch of looks at the rim, and it's like the mid range game is a thing of the past. It doesn't even exist in their offense. So it's going to be a tough one. They're going to get this rematch here in a little bit later on down the season. But
And the
yeah, I
scary part
mean,
is BYU shoots a lot better at home, like 5%
yeah,
better. So they're shooting nearly. I think they're shooting close to 52% at home, and that mentioned defense. Saunders, he's averaging
he really
17
didn't
points
even
a
get
game
going
in Big
tonight.
12 play, and they held him to 9. So he's been averaging 17 points in Big 12 games, held him to 9. So when you have multiple guys, and again, it was multiple guys that hit shots as the shot clock was expired. It's
Yeah,
it's just one of those nights, and for whatever reason, West Virginia gets the best from everybody. This is just a program that people outside of us, want to admit it. I mean, it's right on the cusp of being a blue blood. Like, you're right there because they've had so much success under Bob Huggins, Beeline. Like you almost have 20 years of constantly, continuously being in the postseason. So it's a program that people look forward to playing. It's one of they come in here. It's a big win to win in Morgantown, and you're going to get everybody's best. For year one under DeVries, I think he's handled it just fine. This is again a group that's had 14 new guys on this roster,
I think
and
that's the thing we all
every
continue
game.
to forget in these types of games. It's like,
Yeah,
well, it's not like they were ever going to win the national title this year, and they've already done some things they probably shouldn't have. So maybe it's just a way of water finding its level here. But I mean, you look at these next three games, excuse me, these next two. You got Baylor on Saturday. You have next Wednesday, like you mentioned earlier, you have the rematch against Cincinnati. As of today, those two teams have, guess what? The exact same record as West Virginia, 15-9, just like today's game was against BYU. So you have two more teams coming in having every bit of motivation to win. It's another couple of bubble games. You've got to find a way to, I think, steal one on the road, whether it's at Baylor, whether it's Texas Tech. You've got to be able to kind of make up for one of these home losses and then take care of business at home the rest of the way out. If you think that 15-9 is a scary place to be, just wait here in a couple of weeks and we'll see where things stand. But I mean, this is a brutal stretch. I mean, there's not a whole lot of ranked teams coming up, but it's a lot of tough games in this league, especially left here on West Virginia's schedule.
yeah. I think you got to still, if you go 2-0 in the state of Utah, you'll be doing all right. So and protect home
Yeah,
court.
just win a
Have to
couple of
find some
games. You
wins,
get on a
and
two,
really,
3 game win streak, that might be enough to get you in.
at this point, they'd have to win out to probably get in the top four. But right now, you got to fight for that top eight, get that first round bye to the Big 12 championship because that first win isn't really going to help you that much as far as tournament resume. But that first win, that second round win, will. So if you can
Yeah.
have the night off going in, that puts you in a much better position to get that win, and then all of a sudden maybe you can get some momentum in the quarterfinals against one of the top four teams.
So there you have it. Again, BYU 73, West Virginia 69. West Virginia falling to 15-9 on the year, 6-7 in Big 12 play. They'll be back at it on Saturday afternoon in Waco to take on the Baylor Bears. That one tipping off at 2 o'clock on ESPN2. And that'll do it for us here on the Mountaineer Postgame Show. I'm Schuyler, Callihan. That's Christopher Hall. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. And then go over to our X account and give us a follow at SI_WVU. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you here soon.